Hello, you are currently listening to Crayfish in Brazil. With me always is my good friend Space. This is another episode of ranking your favorite cartoons on a tier list. And we're going to be doing the rest of the shows that had 0 votes and started with the letter S. But first we have to change the ranking of one of these shows. We don't normally do this, but Space and I recently finished watching through all of the cartoon Gem, aka Gem and the Holograms. Now that we're done with it, I think it's safe to say that this show belongs in good tier instead of just pretty good.
I think it's a pretty easy call to make. There were a few really good episodes in the show, especially for a show that came out in the 80s, about a decade before most shows figured out how to do real character writing or serialized storytelling.
Yes, I would say that this show is tied with one other show as the best 80s cartoon that I have ever seen. I was not expecting this cartoon from the 80s about this glam pop rock group to be as good and endearing as it is, but it has some really good characters and it fleshes out a lot of them in ways you wouldn't expect from a show this old, with interesting character dynamics. Although I will say it does have some problems preventing me from putting it any higher, because there's like 3 characters on the protagonist group that just never get fleshed out.
The main group, it starts out obviously with 4 members. One of them never gets any kind of episode dedicated to her at all.
Yeah, one of the main characters, Aja, the Japanese one, never gets a single episode dedicated to her. They even introduce new characters that get more development than her. If a character is not white, they will get no character development. The writers are just afraid to do anything with these characters that are worthwhile, and no, giving them a love interest does not count as character development.
The Misfits, though, they're the real stars of the show.
Yes, the villain group they're hilarious, and the show actually gives all of them at least one full episode to flesh out their characters and give them a reason of why they behave like the way they are. Most of them are psychopaths or con artists, but they all have a reason for why they are. One of them is like a spoiled rich brat who has father and attention issues. One of them grew up like in the slums and is illiterate.
She cannot read, and there's a whole episode about how she cannot read.
There is an episode dedicated to how one of the villains of the show this entire time has been illiterate. And it's an episode about illiteracy and struggling with it. And I think it's a great idea to have for a character. She just grew up like without an education, and that's kind of a big reason why she behaves the way she does. But yeah, all the villains in this show are great. There's still Eric Raymond, the asshole CEO, who ends up being kind of like a loser who's lost everything and then has to regain it all back. It kind of reveals that the Misfits are like his only friends, which is like pathetic but also funny for his character. I love this show. It's top 2 80s cartoons ever made for me. I would actually recommend it.
Fully agreed. The show's far better than it has any reason to be, really, for a show that is meant to just sell dolls to tweens in the 80s.
It does dip in quality sometimes, but I think it always finds its footing by the end of the season.
I just kind of wish they had more seasons and could have, done more with it. I would not have minded, another season to, fully flesh out all the characters and maybe wrap things up.
Yeah.
But the ending it does get is still, while it doesn't feel completely like a definitive ending, I do think it still ends on a good note.
I think it's nice, though, that one of our main complaints with it is we wish there was more of it.
Yeah, it's usually a good thing.
Alright, now to kick things off with shows that start with the letter S. First is Sidekick, which I thought was pretty bad. This is just a Canadian show of these kids at a sidekick school. I guess like a Sky High situation, except I don't think any of them actually have superpowers. Like gadget type heroes. None of the jokes were funny to me. I will say I don't hate the art style. For a Canadian 2D rigged animation show, the art style is not bad. It's just the writing. They just cannot escape that Canadian writing, I swear.
I disagree. I don't like the art style for this one. I'm not a big fan of Beaver Slop MHA. I fully agree with it being down all the way and pretty bad. I think this is very much where it belongs. I don't like the way most of the characters look, especially not the main kid. I don't like looking at him.
I completely understand. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's not like scaredy squirrel levels of bad.
I mean, if we're rating it against the metric of other Beaver Slop shows, that's pretty fair. But everything about it still exudes grade A, Canada-grown, industrial strength maple syrup Beaver Slop.
Don't get me wrong, it still belongs in pretty bad. I would not recommend it to anyone. Alright, now we got the Silver Surfer, which I think was pretty good.
Agreed. This is probably one of the more slept-on 90s Marvel shows. I don't think most people fucking remember this thing. I think the thing that most people remember this for is just the cross-promotional ad between this show and King of the Hill that ran on Fox.
Mr. Surfer, have you ever considered propane as an alternative energy source for that board of yours?
Aside from this version of Silver Surfer being best friends with Hank Hill, I think this is a pretty good, like, little 90s Marvel cartoon.
Yeah, I actually liked the character Silver Surfer in this cartoon a lot more than I thought I would, especially compared to other superhero shows that came out around the same time. Like, there's a lot of shows that I know people love, but honestly, I'd prefer this one. I might actually watch more of this one.
I mean, that's kind of the highest honor I can give it, is it made Brazil here, who doesn't normally give a fuck about Silver Surfer, actually care about Silver Surfer, which is pretty good.
Fantastic Four, I do not give a shit about a single member of the Fantastic Four, but I kinda like the Silver Surfer, at least in the one episode of this show that I saw. He was a good character. Now we got Silverhawks. And Silverhawks, it was not very good, but it did have some things that I liked about it. Mainly the villains. I should say the premise of it. This is another like action 80s toy slop type show meant to sell action figures of these like cyborgs with wing suits. They're like Iron Man suits, but welded onto their bodies, and they just go around and fight intergalactic monsters. All of the heroes are pretty boring, like standard generic protagonist type hero that you can think of. I'd say the G.I. Joe, but even some of the heroes in G.I. Joe are interesting. These guys are just so boring. The villains are where this show actually shines. Like, when it introduces the main villain in the first episode of him escaping prison, that was actually a really good scene in the first, 6 minutes of the episode, and then it's just all downhill from there. Like, nothing lived up to that one villain introduction scene, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. The heroes being so boring is what brought it down to not very good.
I mean, there's at least one kind of interesting hero, the musical cowboy.
There is a cowboy hero
who's like a musical robot cowboy guy, and he's kind of cool. I mean, that's basically it. That's all you've really got to go off of. It is the villain scenes that were absolutely the best part of the one episode we watched.
Next is Sítio do Pica-Pau Amarelo, which is a Brazilian show. The title translates to Yellow Woodpecker Ranch, and I'm putting it in A tier. This is honestly one of the better Brazilian cartoons for children that I've seen. It's not, terrific or anything. I mean, it is made for preschool audience, I think, but it's kind of charming. It's like a grandmother, her 2 grandchildren on this farm where animals can talk and toys and puppets come to life, but only on this location and nowhere else in the world. Everywhere else in the world, it's strange to them. But yeah, you've got like a talking rag doll, a talking pig, a talking like puppet made out of corn, just living on this ranch. The first episode was about some businessman who tries to steal the ragdoll character, kind of like a Toy Story type situation. But yeah, the characters were all right. You know, it's just a cute little children's show. What can I say? It was originally based off of a book from the 1920s, and then it had a uncanny-looking live-action children's show in the 1950s, and then in 2012 it got its own animated series. But yeah, I put it in E tier. That's where it belongs.
It's kind of like a Brazilian Winnie the Pooh situation, and it's got some charm to it. I bet that the books and like the source material are probably pretty good. Not that I can read Portuguese, but the show it didn't make me want to claw my eyes out like the rest of the Brazilian cartoons we watched for this tier list. So it's doing pretty good.
The live action show might make you do that. I'll put a picture of what the live action show looks up on that, and you're like, that's what they look like.
Oh.
Next is Skull Island from Netflix. I'm actually putting this one in pretty good. I only saw one episode of it, and it has, you know, the same animation as like, I don't know, like the Castlevania series. That's the type of show we're dealing with here. It's about some explorers, mercenaries going to Skull Island. I liked the premise of the first episode, and maybe I would watch more of it. I have seen other people who say that the show is terrible and gets way, way worse the more it goes on. But I haven't seen those episodes, so I'm just going off of the first episode, which I thought was pretty good, so it's ending up here.
Big monkey.
The first episode didn't even have a big monkey in it.
Oh, we're gonna have to put it down, like, lower in the tier list then.
Next is Skunk Fu, which I am putting in not very good. This show was made by Cartoon Saloon, which is a animation studio that I love, but only their movies. They've made several shows, and none of them are great. Skunk Fu being maybe the worst thing that I've ever seen them ever make.
Everybody's gotta start somewhere, I guess, but fuck. I don't even know how the people who made Secret of Kells and Breadwinner and Song of the Sea could have made this.
Yeah, it's about a skunk who uses his skunk powers to fight kung fu against, and there's other anthropomorphic animals in this that train with him. It's a pretty generic kids show, and it's also, you know, it's got a skunk as the main character. You can imagine like the kind of jokes and style of humor that it is. It's not great, but man, Cartoon Saloon's movies, huh? Honestly, I was going to put Secret of Kells as the recommendation, but I figured, you know what? We're gonna be talking about Skunk Fu. I'll just talk about Secret of Kells then.
Damn good movie.
This Irish folklore animated movie, beautiful 2D hand-drawn animation. Smaller studio, not many people know about them. They're a lesser known studio, but man, they can make some damn good movies. Go watch Secret of Kells. They've made a whole bunch of movies. They've made Song of the Sea, Breadwinner, Wolf Walkers. I mean, I guess they also made My Father's Dragon. You don't gotta watch My Father's Dragon.
Yeah, you don't gotta watch that one.
No.
All those others, though, are,
yeah.
you know.
Yes. I always watch a Cartoon Saloon movie whenever they come out.
There's another one coming out soon, and it looks really good.
Oh yeah, Kindred Spirits. I am looking forward to Kindred Spirits. That's gonna be peak.
Truly, truly is.
Truly outrageous. Well, you know, now it's time to do the miscellaneous recommendation that starts with the letter S. It's not Secret of Kells, because we just talked about that one. Instead, we're going to talk about the video game franchise Scribblenauts.
This is some peak.
Came out on the Nintendo DS, and then later the Nintendo 3DS. A few games in the series, the best being Scribblenauts Unlimited. I think we can all agree on that. About this kid named Maxwell who has a notebook, and you can type anything into it, any noun, and it comes to life, and then you can just use it in the game to solve puzzles and help people. The amount of work that must have went into it, man, I could imagine. Like having to like sit down and actually like code anything that you could possibly think of and make an asset for it and put it in the game so that you can create it. It can be very broken at times because you can just make like Cthulhu and the Grim Reaper, and then they will actually just kill everybody on the screen. It's got an amazing soundtrack. One of, if not my favorite video game soundtracks of any game ever made. All of the music for it is absolutely wonderful, and I cannot recommend it enough.
It's absolutely terrific. I have been a Scribblenauts enjoyer since day one, since the first game came out on the DS. And it is such a goddamn shame that this franchise is in Warner Brothers' hands and that they refuse to make any new games for it. It's so good. The concept and gimmick is so good. It's so fun. The art style, the music are great. If you've not played a Scribblenauts game, do yourself a favor and get out there and play one.
I think they put Scribblenauts Unlimited on the Switch.
They did, with updated content and new additions.
Yeah, wait for the next Steam sale and get yourself Scribblenauts Unlimited. It is a wonderful little single-player puzzle game. Next up is Sky Commanders. Sky Commanders, now, it's pretty bad, but this is another one of those action 80s shows meant to sell toys, but the premise of it is so hilariously stupid. It takes place on this mountainous planet, and these people who are just at war with each other using zip lines. They just have these devices that can make zip lines wherever they point, and they're just riding on zip lines and firing laser pistols at each other the entire time, and that's the whole show. It is as good as it sounds. Sometimes it's hilarious because there's just explosions and like bullshit going on, and other times it's the most boring thing you could think of because it's a zip line fight.
The opening goes fucking crazy because you can tell that they outsourced the animation to some Japanese company to do it. But the actual show itself is significantly slower and kind of boring for most of it. But it does stand out for the absurdity of its premise as a toy slop show. I am somebody who loves delicious toy slop from this decade.
I think the first 10 minutes of the first episode were actually alright and pretty high stakes action, even if it was just absolutely ridiculous and impossible to take seriously at all. But then after that, whenever they go on a stealth mission, you realize none of these characters have really any personality, and it's just it's like a worse G.I. Joe, but with a stupider premise. Next is Skylanders Academy, which I'm putting in not very good. Now, the Skylanders games, I rocked with the Skylanders games. You know, me and my brothers, we would play the heck out of some Skylanders. So I really like the characters in it, especially the main villain and his goblin sidekick, Glumshanks.
And the Chompy Mage. You can't forget the Chompy
Can't forget
Mage.
about the Chompy Mage.
Yeah, I also played the hell out of Skylanders. I really loved the first game and Giants, and then after that I kind of fell off.
First game, Spyro's Adventure. The second game, Giants. And the fourth game, Trap Team, are all some pretty solid games. Superchargers was alright sometimes. The other two, we don't talk about the other two. But yeah, you had a fun cast of characters in here. They had the rights to Spyro, so they made Spyro a character in it. They changed his design for the games, which a lot of Spyro fans were pissed about, but essentially they already had a dragon character with a design, but then they got the rights to Spyro, so they just took this flat-nosed red dragon and made him purple and called him Spyro, so that's the origin story of why Spyro looks like that in Skylanders. Surely nothing bad will come of that decision. But anyway, in Skylanders Academy, it is not the same continuity as the game. It's kind of like a prequel, but also it's not canon. It's not canon to the games. And Spyro, the protagonist, he's at school for how to become a Skylander, which is like the warriors that protect the world. But Spyro is an asshole. He's like a braggart.
Whoa, I'm so cool! I'm epic! I'm awesome!
Yeah, and he messes everything up because of his hubris, ruins everything. He's such an unlikable protagonist in this show, I swear. You hate him. That's kind of the main reason why it's not very good.
I just want to full force soccer kick him right in the head.
I'm glad that they got Richard Stephen Horvitz to reprise his role as Chaos, the main villain, just doing his Invader Zim voice like he did in the games. Glumshanks, I really liked Glumshanks in the games. He might be the best character in them, and I really loved his voice actor, and I'm a little disappointed that they didn't get him. But the funny thing is, In this show, they replaced him with Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald voices Glumshanks in Skylanders Academy, and it does completely change his personality in the games. He was like the loyal, serious type straight man, very sincere character to balance out with chaos and his maniacal, like, over-the-top voice acting. And in this one, change him to Norm Macdonald, and they change his personality to be more sarcastic, so he's kind of a different character. But I mean, I'm not going to complain too much, just because I do love Norm Macdonald.
And I mean, the same is kind of true of all the characters. They have changed the characterization significantly from the games, what little the games had for most of the Skylanders.
Yeah, they got Jonathan Banks to be Eruptor, so Eruptor is just Mike Ehrmantraut, and it's hilarious.
We gotta save all of our gold to get the upgrade, Walter.
Oh, speaking of Mike Ehrmantraut, we got Slippin' Jimmy, which is pretty bad. This is a prequel 2D animated show about Jimmy McGill, and it's horrible. I don't know why this was made. It's like Big Mouth art style, kid Jimmy McGill, idiot, like snot-nosed children, just like doing a snowball fight. This is some bullshit.
Why did they make this? Why did they think this was a good idea?
Slippin' Jimmy is an essential watch for all Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fans. You gotta know the Slippin' Jimmy lore.
It is required viewing.
There's a lot of shows that I say just do not need to exist, and this is one of them. It didn't offend me so much to put in garbage tier, but it's cutting it close, because it really does not need to exist.
They canceled Elliot from Earth, but he gets to be a show? What a sick joke!
Next is Snagglepuss. I would put it in A tier, because it's alright. Acceptable, even. This is a Hanna-Barbera show about this pink lion with a funny voice getting into mischief, honestly just trying to escape people trying to capture him. I would put it in the same tier as, the Yogi Bear type clone shows that Hanna-Barbera has made, except I just like Snagglepuss more as a main character than Yogi Bear. He's more competent, I think.
There's more to like about Snagglepuss. This extremely flamboyant, effeminate... What the hell is he, like a mountain lion?
I think so.
None of these shows are really good, per se, but I think your mileage kind of varies depending on how likable you find the main character. Snagglepuss is kind of in the S tier of likability in terms of Hanna-Barbera characters.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
He is funny to me. Unlike a lot of other characters who can be kind of grating. At least he's like in the same tier as like Huckleberry Hound and not like Scooby Dumb,
Yeah. It's still a Hanna-Barbera show, which are kind of basic as far as cartoons are considered, but he is definitely one of the better ones. The Snoopy Show, I'm also putting in A tier. This is a fairly recent version of a Peanuts cartoon about the characters from Peanuts, except it's centered on Snoopy interacting with the kids. And it's okay. The Peanuts cartoons, they're usually pretty basic. I know that they're timeless characters and everything, but not every story involving them is gonna be exceptional. And I think the Snoopy Show is really a big example of that. Not trying very hard to be something special. Sometimes I feel like it is just trying to be like a brand, like we're the Snoopy brand as a mascot character, trying to make that Peanuts money. It's not bad or anything, but there are definitely, I like the specials a lot better. Like the Snoopy Presents specials, man, I absolutely love those. Like beautiful art and animation and the way that they do the lighting and the shadows, and all of them actually tell really good stories and flesh out the characters well. And as far as I know, it's a lot of the same people working on it, and it has the same voice cast, like as the Snoopy Show, going into all of the Snoopy Presents specials. They have the same voice actors for all the characters, so I think there's like a continuity there. But the Snoopy Show itself, I could take it or leave it.
I just got one question, Brazil.
Oh, what's that?
You want to talk about penis videos?
You want to talk about penis videos?
Next is Snorks. Everybody remembers it's pretty bad. Everybody remembers Snorks as the ripoff to the Smurfs, the underwater version of the Smurfs.
I do, unfortunately, remember I do unfortunately remember Snorks.
I had never heard of this show before doing this tier list. There is a story behind it that I think is more interesting than the actual stories that take place in the episodes themselves, which is that there was this artist slash businessman who wanted to make his own version of the Smurfs show. He wanted to get the rights to the Smurfs and then make a more modern, mainstream version of it so that he could appeal to a wider audience. And the creator of Smurfs said, "No, I don't want you doing that." And so then this guy, he decided, fine, I'll just make my own Smurfs type show, and it's gonna be way bigger and better than the Smurfs will ever be. And then he made Snorks. All the characters in it are supposed to be like teenagers. They talk in like totally cool teen speak. And I've seen people accuse it of ripping off Archie because they say that like every character in the Snorks matches one of the characters from Archie, and I could kind of see it. Like there is a Jughead type character, a Archie bland hero protagonist teenager type character. So it might, for all I know, it is ripping off Archie as well as Smurfs, and it's underwater.
This show came out way, way later than I thought it did. You know, this ran from like fucking 84 to 89. I thought that this was from like the 60s or the 70s.
No, because Smurfs was 80s.
Was it? I always thought that Smurfs was way older. Yeah, no, you're right. It was an 80s cartoon.
Yeah, came out in 1981.
Man, imagine watching this shit instead of like Gem.
I guess it's just weird because, you know, when you think of 80s shows, you think of like Transformers and G.I. Joe, like action figure type shows.
Oh yeah, I think of that. I think of
Ninja Turtles. But no, yeah,
Star Wars Ewoks.
Yeah, Smurfs was there in the 80s. Pretty big pop culture icon, so naturally somebody would want a piece of that pie, and then they would go on to make a horrible ripoff of it called the Snorks, where all the characters suck. I'm kind of glad. I think it's hilarious that, you know, this guy wanted to make a bigger, better, more popular version of the Snorks. Now here we are in 2026, and it got not a single vote on the poll. Next is Sonic Underground, which I'm putting in not very good. There was several Sonic cartoons. This is the one where there's 3 siblings. There's Sonic, then his pink sister and green brother, who all get separated from birth and live in different adopted homes because their mother was under threat and didn't want any danger to come to her children, so she hid them away in 3 separate homes. And then they meet up again years later when they're all like teenagers, and they become eco-terrorists.
It's definitely one of the least good Sonic shows, I'll tell you that for free. You've got Sonic's iconic brother, Manic, and iconic sister, Sonia, I think her name is.
Who have always been here.
They're iconic Sonic characters that have been in all the games. They do eco-terrorism. It's what Sonic does in the cartoons. But this is a musical cartoon with music in it.
Yeah, they form a band.
Yeah, they're in a band, you see. And all the music in this show is fucking terrible. It's really, really not good. The show is a bit of a fever dream sometimes, mostly because the animation's terrible, and also because it doesn't really feel like Sonic, although I think this is the only one of the old Sonic cartoons to actually have Knuckles show up in it.
Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle.
Unlike Sonic, I do not chuckle.
Alright, next is Spaceballs, the animated series, which is pretty bad. This is a horrible show. It's based off of the Spaceballs movie, which of course is a raunchy parody of Star Wars. I don't know why this was made. Are there really that many fans of Spaceballs? Like, are there really so many people who find Spaceballs funny? There's no way that anyone actually likes Spaceballs, the animated series. It's a good thing that 0 people voted for it, so I can safely say that I do not know of anybody who actually likes Spaceballs, the animated series. This is also very raunchy, probably even worse than the original movie. The very first scene in the entire show is a boob inflation scene, so that just gives you an idea of what we're working with here. It seems like one of those the writer's barely disguised fetish type shows. I'm not even a huge fan of the movie. Like, I watched it, not my kind of thing.
Movie's kind of funny. This is nothing, though.
Now we got Spawn, the animated series. It's pretty good.
I really like the way this is animated, and I really like the voice direction in this.
This one really does feel like the most successful adaptation of a mature adult comic book that I've ever seen be turned into an animated series. It takes itself very seriously and does have like high stakes involved, and you really feel attached to the characters in it. I'm surprised that it's this good and that something like this was allowed to be made.
I'm not even like that big of a fan of Spawn itself, because I kind of feel like the quality of the comics is all over the place, and I have very mixed feelings on Todd McFarlane as a man overall, but be that as it may, this show kicks ass.
Yeah, I've only seen episode 1 and just various clips of the show posted around the internet. But from what I have seen, I think it deserves its standing as pretty good. Like I said, most comic book shows, they're either, for kids, primarily targeted towards kids, younger audiences, or I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but they're like adult comedy focused, something akin to like Deadpool type humor, you know what I mean?
Chimichangas XD random.
Yeah, this one is actually a serious drama. Speaking of other comic book shows, next we got Spider-Man 2017, which is not very good. There's a lot of Spider-Man cartoons that we got to get through. How many in a row? 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 Spider-Man shows in a row that we got to talk about right here. Starting with Spider-Man 2017.
This one sucks. I hate this one.
He acts like Jimmy Neutron.
We can probably pull up the clip. There is unironically a moment in this show where they have Peter do the Jimmy Neutron sodium chloride thing. The characterization for Spider-Man himself in this show is so fucking bad. As a comics diehard, I have a lot of opinions on the way that like certain characters should be written. One of my pet peeves is the constant push to make Peter Parker a high schooler and immature. Like, only the first year of real-world comics featured Peter Parker in high school, and yet every adaptation ever insists on making him, a young, relatable high schooler, and also sanding all of his edges off to make him cute and adorkable and inexperienced, and it's fuck that. Give me Spider-Man who's an angry dick. This is everything I don't like about Tom Holland's Spider-Man cranked up to fucking 20 out of 10.
There is that one bit where the Vulture gets introduced in this show in the first episode, and he has like a sonar screaming ability, and he just starts screaming at Peter Parker. I thought that was kind of funny, but that's the only good thing I have to say about this show, is that one scene, and it's not even good, it's just funny.
Ugh. None of the designs in this show have sauce either. I hate the way that the Vulture looks. I hate that they're cowards afraid to go with comic accurate designs. So they have to make everything look like armor or fucking tech like the MCU. It's cowardly. It smacks of cowardice.
Yeah, next is Spider-Man Unlimited, and I'm putting this one in A tier. Not the best Spider-Man, not the worst.
This one is interesting, though, for a number of reasons. I don't think it's actually set in the same continuity as the 90s show, the other 90s one, but as you can see, it features a very different-looking Spider-Man than most Spider-Man cartoons do. I actually think this is kind of a cool design, but other than that, it's kind of where, like, a lot of the phrase, I guess, ends. The show's not awful. I don't hate it like 2017, but it is weird, because for most of this fucking cartoon, Spider-Man is not in New York.
Well, where's Spider-Man? Where is he?
He hops on a rocket and goes to just a different alternate Earth on the other side of the fucking sun, and the only two like actual Spider-Man villains in the whole show are Venom and Carnage, and he spends like the rest of the show fighting like animal people. Like, the only 3 Marvel villains in the show, from what I know, are Venom, Carnage, and then the High Evolutionary. If you're not like me and you don't have comic autism, you might not even fucking know who that third guy is, but he's like the main villain of this show, weirdly.
The villain from Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
I haven't seen Guardians 3. I didn't even know he was the main villain. What the hell is he doing in that movie?
He's trying to create a new race of animal people to be like the next step in evolution.
Yeah, that's pretty much his normal deal. deal. And that's what he's doing here, too, except he's got, like, a weird planet full of animal people.
Yeah, he's part of, like, Rocket Raccoon's backstory, where he was the one who made Rocket Raccoon out of an ordinary raccoon.
Oh, I see.
He was a pretty good villain in that movie, but yeah, I did not know he was in Spider-Man Unlimited. I only saw the Venom and Carnage episode. But next is Spider-Woman, which I'm putting in A tier for mostly ironic reasons. Now, Spider-Woman is a Marvel superhero cartoon that released one season in 1979. It's about Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, who exists in the same universe as Spider-Man, except she has absolutely nothing to do with Peter Parker. She had her own spider-related incident, which gave her superpowers, except instead of it being a radioactive spider that bit her, it was a regular venomous spider, and she was given experimental spider bite medicine by her dad, and that's what gave her superpowers. But from what I understand, she has a different origin story in the comics. Are you familiar with the Spider-Woman comics space?
I've read them, but I can't say that I'm a very massive Spider-Woman fan. Like, she's alright, you know, but I'd rather read other comics than Spider-Woman comics generally.
But another thing I wanted to mention was that Spider-Woman was only created by Marvel because Filmation was going to make their own character called Spider-Woman for a new cartoon in the 70s. But Stan Lee said, nah, if anyone's gonna have the rights to the name Spider-Woman, it's gonna be me. So they churned out a comic in 77 and made the cartoon 2 years later. So this character only exists so NBC couldn't make a Spider-Woman before Stan Lee.
Stan Lee is a being powered by spite.
The Filmation cartoon did come out, except her new name was changed to Web Woman, and I don't think anyone has ever heard of it except for maybe Solid JJ. But in episode 1 of Spider-Woman, a bunch of pyramids arise from the ground in modern-day Egypt, so Spider-Man is there to investigate them, and he gets captured by a big evil mummy with a pharaoh headdress, so it's up to Spider-Woman to save the day instead. So she goes to Egypt, and the evil mummy reveals that all of the pyramids in Egypt are spaceships, and the ancient mummies were aliens sent to hibernate until they could conquer Earth. So all the mummies in museums all over the world, they're aliens, and they come to life and start attacking people, and the pyramids like fly into the air and shoot everyone with their Sphinx beam to turn them into evil alien mummy soldiers. But Spider-Woman and Spider-Man, they save the day by shooting webs at the pyramid spaceship, and then they all just kind of leave. It is a hilariously bad cartoon, but it was also very entertaining. So for the ironic enjoyment I got out of it, I'm putting it in A tier, along with Mr. T and Motu Patlu. Next is Spidey and His Amazing Friends. I'm putting it not very good. This is just like, we wanted to make a preschool show about Spider-Man, using the Spider-Man characters, and also Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy from Into the Spider-Verse, but they're here coexisting with Spider-Man, and also we changed Miles, his superhero name is Spin, not Spider-Man, because there's already a Spider-Man. There can't be two Spider-Men. It's stupid. No.
Man, Spin is such a shit name. I cannot think of a worse one.
Spin, what do you think, Spin? I'm gonna use my super cool move. I'm miles ahead of you. That's a joke he makes.
It's like, I don't get why they do this. I remember vividly that on my V-Smile as a kid, I had like a preschool like Marvel game that was Spider-Man themed, where the art style was for babies. It's not the first time they've attempted this, but I don't get why they do it.
Preschoolers are just fine.
Preschoolers are just fine. They already like superheroes without you having to dumb them down.
Yeah, you don't have to turn Spider-Man into Paw Patrol in order for preschoolers to be able to watch it. Like, it's already Spider-Man. Preschoolers are gonna watch Spider-Man no matter what. Like, they freaking loved any of the old Spider-Man cartoons that came out.
You don't need this. When I was the target demographic age for this, I was watching the Tobey Maguire movie with no complaints.
Next is Spirit and Friends. Spirit and His Amazing Friends. I'm putting it in A tier. This is just a show, a spin-off of the Spirit DreamWorks movie about some girls on a horse ranch. Kind of like Horseland, I guess. But yeah, it's just them like rescuing an animal or something like that with their horses. It's okay, you know, I'm not gonna call it a bad show. That's not one that I would watch either though. It's for like, younger audiences. It's just a okay, like cute little show. Episodes are 4 minutes long. It's whatever. Next we have a show called Spliced, which I'm putting in pretty bad. This is another Canadian beaver slop type show of these weird animal hybrids living on an island together. And I'm gonna create a new term here, this podcast, called a cookie cutter show. And what that means is every cartoon on here has some kind of gimmick, right? And usually those gimmicks that it has affect the story. But a cookie cutter show is something where the things that happen in the individual episodes, you could use them in literally any of these other shows with the characters that they have in it. Like, for example, the 1980s Pound Puppy show about some sentient talking dogs who are living in a pound and want humans to adopt them. The first episode of that is about some con artist tricking the naive character into robbing a jewelry store. That's a plot that could happen in any of these shows that have a naive character in it. The fact that they're talking dogs in a pound has nothing to do with what's going on. And Spliced is another one of these types of shows, a cookie cutter show. The first episode is about one of them learning that he's really good at bowling, and then some bowling pin looking aliens come down to invade Earth, and then he defeats them with his bowling powers. Like, tell me that isn't just something that could happen in literally any show. The fact that there are these weird hybrid animals on this island has nothing to do with it. And that's the type of show that it is. That's what a cookie cutter show is. So, going forward, I might use that term more often.
Why, Canada? Why do you make these? Why do you inflict these on us and on your populace?
Alright, and next we have Squirrel Boy, another not very good show, and guess what? This one is also a cookie cutter show. I remember when this one aired on Cartoon Network about this annoying talking squirrel who wants to be the center of attention for everything, and he has this human sidekick character and he lives at his house. This is another one where I think that the stories that happen in this one, just like these like slice of life type stories, they could be in any show. They don't really have anything to do with the fact that there's a talking squirrel. Nobody even really acknowledges that it's a talking squirrel. He could be like just a annoying older brother for all intents and purposes. It's kind of a boring nothing show really, and it got 0 votes, so I don't think anybody cares about it anymore.
This is bafflingly by the Duckman guy, and that's maybe the one interesting piece of trivia I have to say about it. All the characters in the show are extremely grating to me, and I fucking hate the way everything looks. I hate the theme song for this show. I have nothing positive to say about this show. In fact, if this were my list, it might be all the way down and pretty bad, just due to the sheer amount of spite I feel towards it.
Yeah, I mainly just put it up here because it was boring more than anything, and this is just the tier where I put all the boring shows.
This was, when it was airing, a channel changer type show, where this was one of the rare shows that could get me to evacuate Cartoon Network and go to Nick or some other place to watch cartoons.
I agree. Alright, now we got Star Trek, the animated series. I'm putting this one in If for a show this old, it's got some charm to it.
Most of the charm is just it being cheap as shit, and just wearing that fact on its sleeve.
This is just like the quintessential old sci-fi space traveling cartoon with episodic stories of having to deal with some kind of alien threat. Characters in it, you know, it is just kind of taking the characters from a more popular live action show, just putting them in this so it gets to get away with that, banking on it, the success that it already has. But it's kind of, you know, basic, which is why it's an A tier, but I'm not going to call it bad either. It had some pretty fun moments from the first episode. Now we get to talk about all the Star Wars shows nobody voted for, starting with Star Wars Droids, which is pretty bad.
What?
I actually have nostalgia for this because I had it was either a VHS or a DVD. I think it was a DVD as a lad, and yeah, I've watched the first few episodes of this show. I remember them pretty well, with R2-D2 and C-3PO who are in every episode, along with some other character who kinda serves as the protagonist. It has different arcs in it, and with a different protagonist in each one, but R2 and C-3PO are always there in whatever kind of peril they get themselves into. Came out in the 80s, and it was weird because back then there was there was the original 3 movies, and the prequels were coming out like back in the early 2000s, and then there was this was way before Clone Wars or anything had come out. So I was wondering, like, I wonder why more people don't know about Star Wars droids. I mean, I have the DVD for it, so other people must know about it. How come nobody ever talks about Star Wars droids? But it's not a great show. It's 80s action cartoon where all the characters are pretty flat, their motivations are weak. But it's got R2 and C-3PO in there. You get banking off this.
I kind of enjoy these next couple of weird shows that we're gonna talk about just because they're so fucking out there and weird. The only Star Wars media that existed when these came out were the movies, and these shows are just pulling things out of their ass to make up new content.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting for that reason, just to see what they do, because they're kind of making Star Wars stuff before, like,
before that was popular.
Yeah, like before the rules or the universe were like really fleshed out. It's so weird and primitive in that way that it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, this was before the second wave of Star Wars hit, with the prequels and everything. This was that in-between period where everything was really loose, so you could just have these guys do whatever they want.
Yeah, and a lot of Star Wars spin-off media from around that time is that way. There's the Christmas special and like the really weird live-action Ewok movie. It's a bunch of like old books from like the 80s and 90s. Like I think that media from like before the prequels but after the original trilogy is kind of like a weird and fascinating time capsule that this is a part of.
Yeah, like imagine if characters from Star Wars droids showed up in like Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Oh, don't give them ideas. They'll make a fucking Disney Plus show about that.
Canonizing Star Wars droids would be so hilarious.
If I were in charge, I would just do that and then turn off all the notifications on my phone.
Well, next we got Star Wars Ewoks, which is also going in pretty bad, but this has to be like the worst thing that Star Wars has ever done, at least any of their animated series. I hate this show so much.
We're the Ewoks, we're the spirits of the forest moon. The show's intro goes so hard. The show's amazing. I don't get what you don't like about it.
All the complaints that people had about, Return of the Jedi introducing these fuzzy teddy bear looking creatures just to pander to child audiences. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet. When you see this stupid Star Wars Ewok show, which I'm pretty sure is just supposed to be a ripoff of the Disney Gummy Bears show, it's the same deal of, these bears living in a forest with their stupid, 80s cartoon hijinks before cartoons were able to be interesting. It's so terrible. I hate it.
This really is just, what if we made Smurfs, but they were Ewoks? That's everything you need to know about this show. They even got their own Gargamel. It's all there. It's just Smurfs, but with a Star Wars coat of paint over it. But it's also an interesting show, just because everything I said about droids applies here. It's in this really weird interstitial period between real Star Wars media, where it's just making shit up off the back of whatever was in the original trilogy. And it's kind of fascinating just to see the bullshit they come up with, because weirdly enough, I know some things from this show have carried over in other media.
Like what?
I looked it up, but there is an instance of creatures exclusive from this show showing up in other things. Like, in an episode of, 2003 Clone Wars, even. Also, you gotta love that intro.
Next is Star Wars Resistance. It's not very good. This one is just really boring. There's a new 3D animated Star Wars show. Not Rebels or Clone Wars. No, this is Star Wars Resistance. The one that everybody knows and loves, that takes place before episode 7. I forgot what episode 7 was called. The Force Awakens. Yeah, that one. About some pilots, and the Resistance. And these characters that I only watched one episode of it, but I couldn't get attached to any of the characters in it. Oh, and also BB-8 is here. You guys love BB-8, right? From the sequel trilogy.
Man, this show is so goddamn boring. Say what you will about Ewoks and droids, but at least those are kind of
You can laugh
entertaining
at them.
in a way. Like, you can laugh at them, yeah, but there are also original ideas there. Weird and baffling original ideas, yes, but there's at least, like, soul in it, as weird as that is to say. It doesn't feel like toothless, marketable corpo schlock the same way this does.
Yeah, I know that this next criticism I'm about to say is very harsh and probably unfair since I've barely seen any of Star Wars Resistance, but I'm gonna call it the Genlock of Star Wars.
Fuck you, Genlock. It does have that Genlock stank to the art style, for sure.
Just the art style is similar. That's really all the only comparison I can make to it, and they're both boring. I don't know if this gets, like, bad or anything, the same way that Genlock does. Just nobody talks about it. I don't think I've seen a single soul talk about Star Wars Resistance. I mean, it didn't get any votes, so I know that it's fairly unknown. Yeah, I'll have to look more into it to see what other people thought of this show, but I know that I will not be watching more of it. Alright, last Star Wars show that nobody voted for, it's Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, which I'm also putting in not very good. The most interesting thing about this show to me is that it takes place 200 years before Phantom Menace. So it is, like, in the Star Wars timeline, the earliest thing that takes place out of any show or movie related to Star Wars, and I think that's very funny.
Oh, people asking for a fucking Old Republic show as a finger on the monkey's paw curls.
Yeah, here you go.
The same thing I said about Spidey and Friends applies here. You don't need to Paw Patrol Star Wars. Preschoolers already fucking love Star Wars. There's, like, lasers and, like, cool spaceships in it. That's all you need. You can just make a normal Star Wars show and preschoolers will watch it. I was watching the fucking Gendy Tartakovsky Clone Wars when I was, like, the target demographic age for this.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. You don't need to babyfy Star Wars in order to get babies to watch it. They're gonna watch it no matter what.
Like, that's the whole appeal of comics and Star Wars. Disney, like, they're all ages things. You can do mature things with it, or things that are aimed at, like, children, or things that appeal to, like, every possible demographic at once. You don't need to make this.
They're already gonna put stuff in the Star Wars movies specifically for kids, so that they'll enjoy watching it, like the Porgs and the Ewoks, stuff like that. They're gonna like it no matter what. Alright, I've been waiting for this one. Starship Goldfish, which I'm putting in good tier. Now, this show is my favorite indie animated web show that's ever been made. I'm glad that it has more than one episode so that it does qualify for this tier list. Otherwise, I would have just recommended it as the letter S recommendation anyway. But I love this show. It has one fully animated, fully colored pilot, and then two 22-minute animatic episodes. They had to do that for budget reasons. But this is actually an indie animated show that more than any other wish got turned into a full show. It does not deserve to rot in pilot hell alongside a lot of these other ones. Like, man, like, the first episode came out in 2013, and I have been following this show since then. I've been a fan of it for 12 years.
I've also been a fan of it for just about that long, and it is such a fucking crying shame that the show has not been picked up by a network yet, and other shows that we will get to that have done better than this one on the tier list in terms of audience votes have. It's a cruel, cruel fucking world where a certain show that starts with the letter H is as popular as it is, and this is languishing in obscurity.
Now, this show, I should get into the premise of it. It's a sci-fi show about this spaceship captain who's kind of an idiot. But there's a reason that he's an idiot, and it's because he intentionally deleted all of his memories so that he would become an idiot, and nobody knows why. He also has a stoic, straight man robot butler, That's the secondary character, and also a young woman who is stuck aboard a space station and can't leave and thirsts for adventure as the third supporting character. That's the main cast of this show, and it is an adult animated comedy of this guy dealing with shit, blowing shit up, getting into all sorts of trouble because of his own stupidity. But it is hilarious and a really good story that I love, and if any more episodes do get made, and I think there is one in production, but it's just been taking forever because the last one came out in 2018. It's been that long since there was anything from this guy. But man, I do really hope to see more of this show. And I know all the time I talk about adult animated comedy and they over-rely on dick jokes and like sexual humor, and this show does have that, but this might be the only show to do it that I actually think is funny, because the guy who made it is a writer who understands comedic timing and voice delivery. So I actually enjoy like a lot of the comedy from this show just because the guy who's making it knows what he is doing. It's also beautiful to look at, the parts that are actually fully animated and colored. I like the art style, I like the way the characters are designed, I like the sci-fi concepts that it uses. It's just overall a good show, and I highly recommend anybody watching these videos to check it out. Save it to your watch later. I mean, it's only 3 episodes long.
It's really fucking good.
And next we have Staying Positive in the Apocalypse, which I'm putting in A tier. It's a YouTube animated series by Drew Langlois, the same guy who made Dudes of Hazmat. And this show, I like Dudes of Hazmat more than this one. This is a very, very dry humor, much drier than Dudes of Hazmat, so I couldn't get into it as much.
I love this show. Like, if this were my tier list, this one would be all the way up and good. I love Drew Langlois' stuff, and for me, the dry humor in this show really tickles my funny bone. I love all of his stuff, and I love his rotoscope style. I think Plague Roach is a fantastic main character. And I love the gimmick of there being a different celebrity cameo in each episode of a fucking evil android in this apocalyptic wasteland taking the face of a dead celebrity as they try to infiltrate the host Plague Roach's radio show. Essentially, the plot of this show is that this single man known as Plague Roach is one of, if not the last people alive in this post-apocalyptic future where every person has been wiped out by these evil killer androids, and he hosts a radio show trying to reach out and offer survival tips and entertainment to all the people that may be out there or may not be. It's kind of left open in the air whether he is the only survivor or not. It's kind of implied that he most likely is, but I really like this show. I like its premise. I love the art style and the animation and its sense of humor. I feel like it has something kind of profound about it, and how Plague Roach relentlessly commits to staying positive even in this extremely bleak scenario, even though it's presented in a very funny, kind of dry humor sort of way. Something about this show really resonates with me. I really like this one. My opinion on it is very different from Brazil's.
Yeah, I like what it's trying to do, and I do like a few jokes and line deliveries from it, but I just wasn't able to appreciate it in the same way I did Dudes of Hazmat. Next is The Stockholms, which I'm putting in A. This was a Cyanide and Happiness miniseries on YouTube. The entire show is about 40 minutes long, about this bank robber who lives in a bank with his hostages as his found family that he is threatening in like the longest ongoing hostage situation that's ever happened in America. And the bank is always surrounded by an army of police officers aiming their guns who are watching in through the bank windows as this is their sitcom TV show. That's what it is. It is a parody of family sitcoms, but it's with a bank robber and his hostages as the family. And it's got some funny situations that it gets into, and it's pretty funny. And I think the ending makes it worth it. It has a good ending. I'm not going to spoil, everything that happens in it. but the main antagonist is voiced by Zach Hadel.
A little bit of money in my bag, a little bit of this thing in my sack.
This might be the only show that I can think of where the main big bad antagonist is voiced by Zach Hadel. So that's pretty funny on its own right there.
The show does have a few really good bits, and I think that the ending is absolutely terrific.
Yeah, like honestly, I might recommend this one just because it's so short. And if you like Cyanide and Happiness, then I kind of like this better than most Cyanide and Happiness, like on average. So it might be worth it checking out.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the best Cyanide and Happiness moments also involve Zach Hadel.
Yeah. Alright, next is Stormhawks, which I'm putting in not very good. This show, it should be really interesting because it has an interesting premise for an action-adventure show of this mountainous planet where everyone has these junky plane flying machines that they battle with. There's an army of sky knights that protect the lands from like evil raiders, basically. But it's the same like studio that made Slugterra and League of Super Evil and Max Steel, and you can really tell it's very similar, although this one came before all those.
This does have like the League of Super Evil stank on it. I was gonna bring that up. You can kind of just tell in the way that it's animated. It's way less good than it should be for what the premise is. I'm sure this is somebody's favorite show, but I feel bad for whoever that somebody is that they didn't have like Ben 10 or like a good DC cartoon to watch instead of this as like their action cartoon fix.
It's like it wants to be really good, but it just can't escape that Canadian writing. I kind of feel bad for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we got Street Fighter, the animated series, which I'm putting in This one's kind of funny.
This one's funny just for how fucking little it has to do with the plot of the game. They honor some concepts from the game, but it's also like they completely bend a bunch of other shit around. It's just very funny in general in how over the top it is. Feels very similar to something like G.I. Joe. And of course, the main character of this show is the most iconic main character of Street Fighter of all, Guile, because we can't have Ryu be the main character because he's not American, and this is an American cartoon. And we can't have Ken be the main character either because he does karate, and that's not American. We need the American military guy. And so the whole show is kind of about Guile, mostly, and he's the main character, and as a result, it's mostly G.I. Joe, except instead of Cobra, they're fighting Shadaloo, and it's led by fucking M. Bison, and of course the fucking bosses from Street Fighter. You've got Vega, Balrog. This show is wild. There's a lot of like really funny individual moments and clips in it. Objectively, it can't go higher than this, but it is like an interesting novelty from like when Street Fighter 2 was kind of at the top of the world and like the most popular arcade game ever.
Yeah, Guile recruits Ryu and Ken and Blanca to be part of a G.I. Joe fighting force to fight against M. Bison, and that's the plot of it.
And Ryu is like part of the comic relief.
Yeah, they almost have like a surfer aspect to them.
It's like none of the characters, aside from like Guile and a few others, are even like recognizable to their game counterparts. At least Ryu and Ken aren't really. I mean, everybody else is more or less okay, but the show is very funny for being an extremely American take on an extremely Japanese thing. And usually when you get interesting things similar to that, it's the other way around, where it's the Japanese doing something American in a very Japanese way. It's rare to get something Japanese done in a hyper-American way like this.
Next is Stressed Eric, and it's not very good. Watching through this was painful. Basically, it's about this guy named Eric, and his life sucks. He's a single father because his wife left him, and his two kids either have like medical issues or mental development issues, and the guy is just riddled with anxiety and nothing goes his way. He has terrible luck. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong when it comes to this guy's life. It's like watching Uncut Gems. It's that stressful to watch this show. None of it is funny. It's just torture porn for this one guy and watching how shit his life is. And that's the entire show. I cannot recommend it.
This is a nothing show. We do so many of these that sometimes it's hard to think of anything to say for them, but this is a show not really for anybody, clearly, because nobody voted for it or had anything good to say about it.
Next is Sunday Pants. I'm also putting this in not very good, but this is another one of those shows where it's different animated shorts made by different creators strung together in a single 22-minute episode, and it is as good as whatever animated short you are watching with. It's a mixed bag, a very mixed bag. So it's a little hard to rank, but overall I'm just putting it in not very good because that's what most of the shorts were, I think. There was one called Periwinkle Around the World, which I would have thought C.H. Greenblatt made, judging by its art style, because it looks like a C.H. Greenblatt show, like Harvey Beaks or Chowder, but I was surprised. No, it was Gendy Tartakovsky and Aaron Springer who made that. There was a few other ones. There was about a guy on a windowsill, and it looks like he's about to jump off to his death, but he was just up there to get a frisbee. So there's a few good jokes in here, depending on which short you get. But, you know, it's just one of those mixed shorts shows.
I love this format. It's one of the only, like, animated shows I can think of that, you know, does this, like, variety shorts format aside from Liquid TV and Liquid Television, which are both two separate things. I don't think we can put it any higher, but I think A is probably where this one belongs, but I do wish it was better. I like the variety of just a bunch of animated shorts back to back. More shows should do that.
Yeah, that's how a lot of them get picked up to be shows. That's how Powerpuff Girls and Beavis and Butthead started out. Okay, next is Super Drags. It's pretty bad. It's about these like 3 ugly men who dress in drag to be superheroes, and it does like close-up shots of their ass and balls hanging out. It's like super raunchy. It's not funny at all. I hated it. The people that I imagine would be fans of a show of men dressing in drag to be superheroes honestly would probably find this offensive because of how stereotypical it is, so I can't see anybody actually liking this shit.
Yeah, it's kind of a show for nobody.
Yeah, I don't even know why I didn't put it in garbage. I guess past me just put it in pretty bad, but I'm not gonna rewatch it to find out. So, moving on. Now we got Super Friends 1973. Which is going in not very good. There are a lot of different versions of the Super Friends show, 6 of them, I think, and only one of them received any votes, so we gotta talk about 4 different Super Friends shows now. The first one had its team comprised of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, and also it was made by Hanna-Barbera, and you know they gotta make that sweet, sweet dog money, so they've also included 2 teenagers who are straight up copies of Shaggy and Daphne, along with a talking dog who's a copy of Scooby-Doo, complete with Frank Welker doing the exact same Scooby voice for him. And yeah, these guys just hang out with the Justice League and help them solve mysteries.
Yet again, another situation of, it's not them trying to do a Paw Patrol, but it is them trying to, like, cash in on their Scooby-Doo success to make superheroes more, like, have more appeal to a younger audience of kids. You don't fucking need a Scooby-Doo stand-in to, like, sell Batman to children. Batman sells himself. If anything, you're taking away from the appeal of having a cartoon about the Justice League by putting these fuckers in it. Imagine if Justice League and Justice League Unlimited kept these fuckers around and continued this approach.
The Hanna-Barbera, like, Scooby-Doo clone characters, they only show up in this batch of episodes from the first iteration of Super Friends, and then we never see them ever again, so I guess they learned their lesson. But the one episode we saw of the 1973 Super Friends involves this businessman and his lackey dressed up as a king and a court jester, and they stole blueprints on how to make a gigantic machine that can make anything out of plastic. So basically a 3D printer the size of a sports stadium, and it can make anything, including houses and fully functioning vehicles. And the stuff that he makes, the plastic, it's called FRERP. Like, yes, I'm going to make some more FRERP.
Which sounds like fucking YouTube poop terminology. Yeah. But no, that's just really what it's called in the episode.
The FRERP Arena.
Step number 1, the FRERP. My beloved FRERP.
I think it was like an acronym for something, but I can't remember what it was called. I just remember it was really funny because it was called FRERP.
Yeah, sounds like YouTube poop sentence mixing, but if I ever get the honor of writing comics for DC, I'm bringing back the villains exclusive to this show, putting them in something.
Yeah, and this guy's plan is to just make himself enough buildings and vehicles for him to make his own country that he can be the king of. It's like that episode of Phineas and Ferb where Doofenshmirtz made Doofania, but as expected, the Super Friends kick his ass, and all is well. It honestly wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't an hour long. This show's episodes were an hour long, and they get really boring after maybe 15 minutes, because this is still Hanna-Barbera we're talking about. Now we got Super Friends 1980. This one's going in A tier. That's where I put it. If you remember the very first episode of this podcast, we covered another Super Friends show all the way back then, the all-new Super Friends Hour, because it started with an A, you see. Well, the 1980s Super Friends is basically exactly like that one, but with a different title, but it's got the same characters: Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, the Wonder Twins, and their alien monkey named Gleek. The main difference being that the 80s one is not an hour long anymore, thank God, and instead they're broken up into 3 different segments over a single 22-minute episode, but still, it's an old superhero cartoon that's not terrific, but just merciful enough with its pacing to be in A tier.
They did not really learn their lesson. They swapped out the other Hanna-Barbera type characters for different ones at least, but I'll at least give it the benefit of the doubt because the Wonder Twins have stuck around in other things after the show came out, but you still don't need these types of guys in this show. You don't fucking need Gleek. Having Superman and Batman in the same cartoon is already enough to hold the attention of any child with any sense of wonder or fun.
You can still have a teenage superhero, but one with a little more depth than the Wonder Twins.
Just actually characterize Robin. I mean, he's already in the show and he's a teenager.
Yeah, but they'd actually kind of learned that lesson, sort of, with a new character in the next one, which is Super Friends Legendary Superpowers Show. A tier.
They're really on some good shit with these names.
And it's another Super Friends show, except it's 15-minute episodes with a story going on. And also, Firestorm is a character now. Maybe even the protagonist, at least he was in the first episode. And his whole deal is that he's a teenager, but he combines with the mind of his old professor to become a superhero named Firestorm with some pretty, overpowered abilities.
Yeah, despite, you'd think, oh, he's like a fire guy. No, he fucking controls atoms like Dr. Manhattan. He can basically do anything. It is cool that they have Firestorm as a major character. I think Firestorm's kind of underrated as a superhero, and it's cool that they're giving him a spotlight. It's cool that he's there. I mean, that is a point in its favor. It doesn't make the mistake that the other Super Friends shows did of having made up nothing Hanna-Barbera characters in it. And so that, I would say, puts it above the other cartoons for sure, but still not enough to get it out of this tier.
Because of the weird title of the next one, there's 2 other shows that I have to talk to first before getting to the last Super Friends show. So, because alphabetical order BS. Yeah, the Superhero Squad show, which it's pretty bad. Before there was Spidey and his amazing friends, there was the Superhero Squad show, which is honestly much, much worse.
Oh, the Superhero Squad show. It sucks that this show is as terrible as it is. The art style is bad, and the writing is a million times worse. If they had actually put their resources into it, this could have been Marvel's Justice League Unlimited, but instead we get this. Why don't you talk about the content of the Superhero Squad show, Brazil?
The best I can describe it is, all of the robot chicken bits that have to do with Marvel characters? Imagine those, but they're for an audience of 5-year-olds is the target demographic. That's what the content of this show feels like.
Yeah, the humor is as juvenile as possible. It is the lowest hanging fruit jokes you could possibly do to make 5-year-olds laugh. I think that the only joke I find kind of funny is them giving Silver Surfer a generic surfer bra voice, but it does come at the cost of completely eliminating the ability to make Silver Surfer act like Silver Surfer at all, or do like any character stuff with him. Not that this show is remotely interested in doing character stuff.
The only thing funny about this show is being able to make fun of it.
Even then, I think that the amount of enjoyment you get out of that is very limited. Literally the lowest common denominator jokes to make 4-year-olds laugh. Fart jokes and burp jokes, fucking nonstop. All of the characters act like stupid babies. It's really bad. I don't get how, like, Marvel and DC haven't gotten the memo that you don't need to dumb this shit down to make kids like it. Kids will like superheroes on their own, just presented as is, if you just, like, give that to them.
Even as a kid, I would rather just watch, like, the live-action Spider-Man shit than this.
And as a kid, I watched a lot of superhero cartoons, and I always gravitated away from shit like Superhero Squad and like towards shit like Justice League Unlimited and the Batman and like BTAS.
Okay, but now I got a show that I know you like, and I say that with zero irony this time. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
I am not even kidding when I say I can't believe nobody voted for this. Granted, yeah, it's not that good, right? Like, objectively. But it is fun, and it is funny, and it's weirdly cozy in a way that I can't explain. Maybe it's like the live-action bits with Lou Albano. I guess how endearingly cheesy it is. None of the jokes in it are really, like, intentionally funny, unless you count the live-action bits being kind of funny. Like live-action Mario and Luigi.
It's absurd.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's something about the aura of this show, you know? Or it just adds up to more than the sum of its parts. For whatever reason, I find this show really, really charming in a way I can't explain. Part of that's ironic, but a lot of it is unironic.
I don't have any nostalgia for this show. I never watched any full episodes of it before doing this tier list. My main exposure to it is just what the internet has done with it, which is, you know, make a bunch of memes and YouTube hoops involving it. That's my main exposure to this when I was younger. So I like it for those. As a show, as a standalone show, I don't love it. I can't say that I love the show and its content. It's kind of just
I just have a soft spot in my heart for like really bad 90s video game shows like this and
Captain N.
Not so much Captain N. It really shits on a lot of things like Mega Man and Castlevania in ways that are a little unforgivable. I was gonna say things like this and like the bad Zelda cartoon, the bad Mega Man cartoon, which honestly, now that I think about it, is probably the best Mega Man cartoon by default. But my point still stands. I love that fucking American-made 90s cartoon adaptations of Japanese video games. It's a very specific subgenre of cartoons that I kind of grew up with a lot of DVDs of, and I like them for that reason.
I can't say that I like the show itself, but I do find its existence funny for what it is.
With the Mario Brothers?
I'm able to get behind the cultural osmosis of people finding it endearing, even if I don't actually enjoy watching the show itself. Okay, now it's time for the final Super Friends show that got no votes. It's the Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians, which I'm putting in A tier.
This one's kind of interesting because it has Cyborg in it as part of the main team, way before the New 52 shit in the early 2010s tried to make Cyborg a member of the Justice League.
Yeah, another big difference here is that they no longer call themselves the Super Friends. They're the Superpowers Team now, which I don't know if that name is more or less stupid than Super Friends. The show is now 22 minutes long. They finally found out how to make normal-length action-adventure cartoon episodes. And yeah, this is the one that introduced Cyborg as a character, and it's been very subtle, but throughout all of these Super Friends shows that do have the same continuity sometimes if they feel like it, you can tell that they feel more like real people with each iteration, like getting something closer to classic Justice League show. Because I think Cyborg in this is the best example because he actually has doubts about joining the Super Friends because he says he'll never be able to have a secret identity because of his robot appearance being permanent and can't exactly have a normal like everyone else on the Superpowers team. Like, that's some character work that feels more like Teen Titans or Justice League Unlimited than it does Super Friends. So I do give them props for that.
This is easily the best, I think, of the Super Friends shows, probably. It's still not good enough to crack A, but it's like they're kind of starting to cook a little bit.
Like, it's not as entertaining as the other ones, because it's not, like, funny or anything like the other ones are, so it still goes in A tier, but it's a step in the right direction.
Granted, they're still like fucking light years behind the comics, because the fact that they have Cyborg in this means that New Teen Titans, the comic, would have already like been out by this point and popular. So they're still super fucking behind the curve of the writing that the comics are doing by now. But, you know, at least they're trying a little bit. That's something.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but there probably would not be any Justice League cartoon if it were not for Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians. It walked so that Justice League could run. Now we got SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron, which is actually pretty good.
Fuck yeah, SWAT Cats.
This was an early 90s action cartoon about this world of anthropomorphic cats that, you know, have cities, and there's these two cats who have like a hangar with a fighter jet in it that they use to fight villains. Like the first episode, some evil cat warlock just appears out of a grave and has a time portal where he like brings dinosaurs back from the past to wreak havoc on this cat city, and this fighter jet has to stop it. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, SWAT Cats kind of fucks. The animation is also insanely good. Don't let the Hanna-Barbera thing fool you. There is some like really good for the time animation in here. You can very clearly tell they outsourced to like a Japanese studio. The first episode literally features them fighting a magic lich and his fucking dinosaurs by blowing them up with a fighter jet. It is as cool as it sounds.
This one was surprisingly good for what it is. I was expecting, you know what I was expecting.
I mean, and the vibe of the show overall, and like the art style and the music, it's all like really rad. I remember watching this one on Boomerang as a kid. Of the shit on Boomerang, it was like one of the shows I would look forward to the rare few times they would show it.
A show like Phantom Cat is some bullshit compared to this. This one should have gotten some votes.
I'm kind of shocked SWAT Cats got no votes. This show is really fucking good, and I know it does have fans and like diehards for it. I guess none of them were like here for the poll. Man, if I had more vote real estate, I would have given SWAT Cats a vote. I fucking love SWAT Cats. I'd probably put it up in good.
Maybe I'll watch another episode of it at some point. Okay, final show that starts with the letter S that got 0 votes. It's Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, which is not very good.
Last and certainly least, I would say. I've never been like a very big fan of Sylvester and Tweety. I would consider them like C to D tier Looney Tunes characters. It's like up an S, you've got like Foghorn Leghorn, like Daffy Duck. It's kind of just boring. It's just like Tweety Bird solving like mysteries. And I love a good mystery, but the mysteries are never really engaging. Scooby-Doo tier shit.
The Granny is a detective, and also Tweety is a detective. Granny's doing her role thing while Sylvester and Tweety and the Bulldog character are doing classic, you know, Looney Tunes hijinks, you know, with the cat and bird routine, and then the Granny solves the mystery by the end of the episode. It's pretty formulaic and just really boring. I can't recommend it. But there we go. That's this episode. Done with the S's that got 0 votes finally. The next one will be the T's. Can't wait to get into that. And soon enough, we'll finally be getting to the shows that actually got votes. I can't wait for that. Make sure to tell in the comments if you have any opinions on any of these shows that we talked about so that the algorithm will love me.
And me as well.
But I'll be seeing you next time.